Commander Tejo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Meridian Star, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the gleaming metal floor. The blue planet called Earth hung in the view screen before him, a tantalizing prize. His four-fingered hand tapped impatiently against the command console. "Sir, I must again advise against this course of action," said Science Officer Miho, his voice tight with concern. "The Galactic Council's directive is very clear. Earth is forbidden territory." Tejo flicked his secondary eyelids in annoyance. "And has the Council ever explained why?" "No. Just vague warnings in old stories to frighten younglings." The bridge crew remained silent, their scaled skin reflecting the blue glow from the planet on the screen. The Meridian Confederacy had built its power by taking what it wanted. 3 solar systems had already fallen to their superior technology and military might. Earth, with its abundant water, minerals, and biological diversity, was simply the next logical target. "The humans are primitives," Tejo continued. "They've barely reached their own moon. Their weapons would be useless against our shields. Their leaders will surrender quickly when they see our power." Miho moved closer, lowering his voice. "Commander, there are strange readings coming from the planet. Energy signatures unlike anything I've seen before." "Natural phenomena," Tejo dismissed. "Or perhaps their primitive technology gives odd readings on our advanced sensors." A communications officer called out, "Commander, incoming transmission from Council headquarters." Tejo sighed. "Display." The stern face of Council Elder Siho appeared on screen. Her ancient eyes narrowed as she spoke. "Commander Tejo, our monitoring systems show your fleet has changed course toward the Forbidden World. Reverse course immediately." "Elder Siho," Tejo replied with fake politeness, "we are merely conducting scientific surveys of neighboring systems." "Do not lie to the Council," Soho snapped. "The Earth Directive has stood for 10,000 years. No contact. No exceptions." Tejo's patience wore thin. "With respect, Elder, my people need resources. Earth has them in abundance. The humans are primitive and will pose no threat. The Council's fear seems irrational." Elder Suho's expression darkened. "It is not fear of what we might do to them, Commander. It is fear of what they might become if provoked." "Riddles and mysticism," Tejo scoffed. "My fleet will proceed as planned." "Then you do so against direct Council orders," Soho warned. "The consequences will be yours alone to bear." The transmission ended abruptly. Tejo turned to his crew. "Prepare the contact team. We descend to their capital city in 6 hours." Later, in his private quarters, Tejo reviewed the sparse information available about Earth. The Council kept most data classified, but his intelligence operatives had gathered bits and pieces. Humans were physically unimpressive, no natural armor, weak muscles, dull senses. Their technology was primitive compared to galactic standards. Their military forces relied on chemical explosives and basic projectile weapons. Yet the Council treated them like a deadly virus to be contained. A soft chime announced Miho at his door. The science officer entered, holding a data crystal. "Commander, I found something in the old archives," Miho said. "A partial record from 5,000 years ago. It mentions Earth, but in a strange context." "Show me," Tejo ordered. A holographic text appeared, much of it corrupted or redacted. Tejo could make out only fragments: "Sleeping giants, chose to forget, power beyond measure, must never be awakened." Superstitious nonsense, Tejo decided, shutting off the projection. The Council keeps them isolated for some political reason they don't want to share. "Sir," Miho persisted, "what if the humans aren't what they appear to be?" Tejo stood and walked to his viewport, gazing at the blue planet. "What they appear to be is insignificant and resource-rich. Perfect for our needs." The scout ships reported back Earth's defensive systems were basic, their detection technology easily evaded. The invasion would be simple. Quick. As the fleet moved into final position, Tejo felt only excitement, not dread. In 2 days, Earth would belong to the Meridian Confederacy, and his name would be recorded in their history as the commander who dared to break the oldest rule in the galaxy. What Tejo couldn't see were the ancient systems beneath Earth's surface, dormant for millennia, now registering the presence of alien ships in orbit. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, beneath the Himalayan mountains, and below the sands of the Sahara, lights that had not shone since before human civilization began to glow once more. The first rule of the universe was about to be broken. And the universe would never be the same. The 5 Meridian ships broke through Earth's clouds above Washington, D.C., their massive hulls blocking the sun and casting dark shadows over the frightened city below. People stopped in the streets, pointing upward and taking videos with their phones. Some ran in panic. Others stood frozen in disbelief. Commander Tejo watched from the bridge of his flagship as his ships formed a perfect pentagon over the White House. His scaled lips curled into what his species considered a smile. "Begin the light display," he ordered. Brilliant beams shot from each ship, creating a web of dazzling energy high above the city. The Pentagon went on high alert. Military jets scrambled, only to be disabled by invisible fields that shut down their electronics. The message was clear: resistance would be pointless. "Landing party, prepare for descent," Tejo commanded. "Remember, we need only their leaders to surrender. The rest will follow." The diplomatic team, led by Tejo himself, materialized on the White House lawn where American officials had hastily gathered. Secret Service agents stood with weapons drawn, though they must have known their guns would be useless. The president stepped forward, flanked by military generals and cabinet members. Their faces showed fear mixed with determination. "I am President Clark of the United States," he said, voice remarkably steady. "Why have you come to our world?" Tejo towered over the humans, his translator device converting his words to English. "I am Commander Tejo of the Meridian Confederacy. We have come to claim the resources of Earth. Your water, minerals, and biological materials will serve our expansion." A general spoke up. "And if we refuse?" Tejo gestured upward. One of his ships fired a beam that sliced through an empty skyscraper miles away. The top floors crashed down in a cloud of dust and debris. "That was uninhabited, as a courtesy," Tejo said. "We can target populated areas just as easily." The human officials exchanged worried glances. The president looked grim. "We need to discuss this with leaders from other nations. Earth isn't governed by just one country." "You have 1 hour," Tejo replied. "Gather whoever you need." 55 minutes later, Tejo and his team stood in the White House Situation Room. Leaders from major world powers joined by video conference. Military commanders argued about potential responses while scientists desperately analyzed the alien technology. No one noticed the young woman who entered quietly and took a seat at the far end of the table until she spoke. "May I have permission to address our visitors?" she asked. The president looked surprised but nodded. The room fell silent as the woman stood. She wore a simple gray suit, her black hair pulled back neatly. "I'm Jaiwoo Park, junior diplomat with the United Nations," she said. Her voice was soft but perfectly clear. She looked directly at Tejo without a trace of fear. "I think you might want to reconsider that position," she stated simply. Tejo's secondary eyelids blinked in amusement. "And why would we do that, small human?" "Because you've broken the first rule of the universe," Jaiwoo replied. "And there are consequences for such actions." Tejo laughed, the harsh sound making several humans flinch. "Your primitive species can't even leave your own solar system. What consequences could you possibly deliver?" Jaiwoo didn't answer. Instead, she removed a communication device from her pocket. It looked like an ordinary phone, but when she tapped it, strange symbols flashed across its screen. "Protocol Lazarus," she said into the device. "Authorization Jaiwoo Park, Sentinel Class." Nothing happened for several seconds. Then the room's lights flickered. The floor vibrated slightly. One of Tejo's officers rushed in. "Commander! Our ships are reporting energy surges from all over the planet. Something is powering up beneath the surface." On screens around the room, news feeds began showing incredible sights. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the water churned and parted as a massive structure rose from the depths. In the Sahara Desert, sands shifted to reveal a gleaming metal dome. From beneath the Antarctic ice, towering spires emerged, glowing with blue energy. All across Earth, ancient machines were awakening. Tejo's communicator crackled with panicked reports from his fleet. "Commander! Unknown energy fields are surrounding our ships. We cannot move. Weapons systems are not responding." The general standing nearest to Jaiwo whispered, "What is happening?" "The awakening," she answered calmly. "Earth was never defenseless. We just didn't remember we had defenses." Tejo stared at the screens in disbelief, then back at Jaiwo. Her eyes now held something ancient and knowing that hadn't been there before. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I am a sentinel," Jaiwo replied. "One of many placed among humanity, dormant until needed. You've triggered our awakening by breaking the rule that has protected the galaxy for millennia." Outside, the sky darkened as thousands of smaller craft emerged from hidden bases worldwide, surrounding the Meridian ships in a display of superior force. "Now," Jaiwo said, her voice carrying new authority, "shall we discuss the terms of your surrender, Commander Tejo?" Commander Tejo sat in stunned silence in what had become his prison, a comfortable but secure room in the White House. His four-fingered hands trembled slightly as he watched the screens showing his once mighty fleet now floating helplessly above Earth, each ship wrapped in shimmering energy fields. The door opened, and Jaiwo entered with two others, President Clark and a tall human male with silver hair who introduced himself as General Kim. "Your council representatives have arrived in orbit," Jaiwo informed him. "They're quite upset with you." Tejo's scales darkened in shame. "How? Our fastest ships would take weeks to reach Earth from Council space." "They were already nearby," Jaiwo said. "Watching. They always watch Earth." "I don't understand," Tejo admitted. "Why would the Council care so much about a primitive world?" General Kim laughed softly. "Is that still what you think we are?" A holographic display activated in the center of the room, showing the ancient machines that had emerged all over Earth. Their design was unlike anything Tejo had ever seen, elegant yet powerful, with technology that seemed to bend reality itself. "Where did humans get such advanced technology?" Tejo asked. "We didn't get it," Jaiwo replied. "We created it. A very, very long time ago." The hologram shifted to show a strange symbol, a spiral galaxy with 12 stars arranged in a circle around it. Tejo gasped. "The mark of the precursors. But they vanished from the galaxy over 50,000 years ago." "We didn't vanish," President Clark said quietly. "We came home." Over the next hour, Jaiwo explained the truth that had been hidden from the galaxy for millennia. Humans weren't just another young species struggling to reach the stars. They were the descendants of the precursors, the first and oldest civilization, the builders of the jump gates, the mappers of the stars. "Our ancestors had power beyond imagining," Jaiwo explained. "They could reshape planets, harness the energy of stars, create life. But that power changed them." "Changed them how?" Tejo asked. "They became cold. Distant. Some even cruel," General Kim said. "They began to see themselves as gods, not as part of the universe but above it." The hologram showed ancient conflicts, terrible wars that scarred entire regions of space. Weapons that could destroy suns. Billions of lives lost to the whims of beings who had forgotten what it meant to be mortal. "A group of precursors finally understood what they were becoming," Jaiwo continued. "They decided to do something that had never been attempted before. They would start over. Return to their homeworld. Give up their power and knowledge. Become simple and human again." "Earth," Tejo whispered. Jaiwo nodded. "They created a genetic lock in our DNA. All knowledge of who we were, all access to our technology, was hidden away, set to reawaken only if we were directly threatened by outside forces. By breaking the non-interference directive," Tejo realized, "I triggered the awakening." "Yes. The Council didn't create that rule to protect us from the galaxy," President Clark said. "They created it to protect the galaxy from us." a new alarm sounded. On the screens, a massive council ship had appeared in orbit. Taeho recognized the distinctive design of the Grand Arbiter's vessel, the highest authority in the Galactic Council. "They're requesting to land immediately," General Kim noted, checking a device. "They seem quite urgent about it." "I imagine they are," Jaiwo smiled slightly. "The nightmare scenario they've feared for 50,000 years is unfolding. Humanity is remembering." Taeho watched as ordinary humans around the world were changing before his eyes. On news feeds, people reported strange dreams, sudden insights, knowledge they couldn't explain. A farmer in Kenya was drawing perfect designs for faster-than-light engines. A schoolteacher in Brazil had begun speaking in the ancient precursor language. A child in Japan had assembled a small anti-gravity device from household items. The council delegation landed an hour later in a state of barely controlled panic. Grand Arbiter Kyung, a respected elder whom Taeho had only seen in official transmissions, rushed into the meeting room flanked by representatives from 12 major galactic powers. "You must stop the awakening," she demanded without preamble. "The process can still be reversed if..." She stopped when she saw Jaiwo, her eyes widening in recognition. "You're a sentinel." "I am," Jaiwo acknowledged. "One of many." "How far has it gone?" another council member asked fearfully. "Far enough," General Kim replied. "We know who we are now. We remember what we can do." Grand Arbiter Kyung sank into a chair, suddenly looking very old. "Then we are too late." "That depends," Jaiwo said gently, "on what you fear will happen." "The return of the precursors at the height of their power," Kyung said. "The end of the balance we've maintained since your departure." "Or perhaps," President Clark suggested, "the beginning of something better." "We remember our mistakes as clearly as our achievements. We have no wish to repeat them." Outside the window, one of the ancient machines that had risen from the ocean hovered above Washington. Its presence was both beautiful and terrifying, a symbol of what humanity had once been and might become again. "We should talk," Jaiwo said to the council representatives. "About the future of the galaxy. All of us, together." Dr. Hyun woke up at 3:17 a.m. with her heart racing. The dream had been so vivid, equations flowing through her mind like water, concepts she had never studied somehow making perfect sense. She stumbled to her desk and began writing frantically, filling page after page with formulas and diagrams. By dawn, her small apartment was covered with papers. Her hands were stained with ink, her eyes red from lack of sleep. But her mind felt clearer than it had ever been. When she arrived at the university physics lab where she worked, her colleagues were already gathered around a television. News reports showed the alien ships hovering above Washington, D.C. and the strange structures that had emerged around the world. "It's happening everywhere," her lab partner said. "People are changing." Dr. Hyun spread her papers across a table. "I know how to fold space," she announced. Her colleagues stared at her. "What are you talking about, Hyun?" Professor Lee asked. "That's theoretical." "Not theoretical." "Just forgotten," she replied. She pointed to her equations. "We can create corridors through dimensional space. We can travel anywhere in the galaxy in moments." Professor Lee studied the formulas. His eyes widened. "This is... I don't understand how you've done this." "I didn't do it," Dr. Hyun said quietly. "I remembered it." Across the globe, similar scenes were playing out. A farmer in Brazil suddenly understood how to communicate with plants at a molecular level. A taxi driver in Egypt began drawing plans for gravity manipulation engines. Children started speaking languages no one recognized but that somehow contained concepts beyond human science. In a military base in North America, soldiers found they could operate the alien technology without training. Senior officers reported dreams of ancient battles among the stars, tactics and strategies from wars fought millennia ago. Commander Taeho watched these reports with growing unease from his room in the White House. Grand Arbiter Kyung sat with him, her ancient face grim. "This is why we feared the awakening," Kyung explained. The knowledge returning to your kind in a single generation rather than over thousands of years of natural development. Will they become like the old precursors? Taeho asked. The ones who nearly destroyed the galaxy? Kyung shook her head. We don't know. That's what terrifies us. In the Pacific Ocean, the massive structure that had risen from the depths was now recognized as an ancient shipyard. Thousands of people felt drawn to it, arriving by boats, helicopters, and even swimming. Each somehow knew exactly what to do once they arrived. Dr. Hyun was brought to this facility by military transport. When she stepped onto the massive platform, something clicked in her mind. She walked unerringly to a control center that had been underwater for 50,000 years and placed her hand on a panel. Lights came on. Systems activated. I am Dr. Hyun, engineer class, she said, the words coming to her without thought. Initiating production protocols. Beneath the platform, molecular assemblers began creating vessels that could travel between stars. Materials were drawn from the seawater itself, transformed at the atomic level. In orbit, the Council representatives met urgently with Earth's rapidly changing leadership. Jaiwoo, now recognized as a high-ranking sentinel, led the human delegation. The awakening cannot be stopped now, she explained. But it can be guided. The last time your kind had this power, millions of worlds suffered, a council member argued. We are not the same people we were then, Jaiwoo countered. We've lived as ordinary humans, known suffering and joy, love and loss. We've built civilizations without our advanced technology, created art and music and literature from our limited human experience. In a hospital in Seoul, a doctor suddenly understood how to cure diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. In a school in Kenya, a teacher began explaining mathematics that unified all physical forces. In a small apartment in London, an elderly woman remembered how to communicate across vast distances using only thought. The knowledge was returning, but filtered through human experiences. The cold detachment that had corrupted the ancient precursors was tempered by 50,000 years of human struggle and growth. At the shipyard, Dr. Hyun stood on an observation platform watching the first new ship rise from the assembly bays. It was beautiful, sleek and powerful, yet somehow different from the ancient designs in her memories. She had modified them, incorporated a human aesthetic. It's magnificent, General Kim said, joining her. How soon until it can fly? It already can, Dr. Hyun replied. But the question isn't if we can return to the stars. It's how we should return. Above them, the council ships maintained their vigil, waiting to see what humanity would become. The old balance of power in the galaxy had already shifted. The sleeping giants were awake. But they were not the same giants who had gone to sleep. They were something new, precursor knowledge with human hearts. Whether this would save the galaxy or doom it remained to be seen. In her lab, Dr. Hyun looked at the stars through a window and felt them calling to her. She remembered them now. All of them. The new Galactic Council chamber hung in orbit between Earth and its moon. The massive ring-shaped structure gleamed in the sunlight, its design both beautiful and impossible, corridors that bent space, rooms that were larger inside than outside, gardens where plants from 1,000 worlds grew together in harmony. Representatives from every known spacefaring civilization gathered in the Grand Hall. Many still showed fear in their postures and expressions. Others displayed curiosity. A few seemed awed to be in the presence of the returned precursors. Taeho, no longer a commander but now the Meridian ambassador, adjusted his formal robes nervously. 6 months ago, he had come to conquer Earth. Today, he would witness the formal reorganization of galactic society with humans at its center. Still uncomfortable in diplomatic attire, asked Dr. Hyun, approaching him with a smile. Her simple white uniform bore the new Earth insignia, a spiral galaxy with a blue planet at its heart. I was trained as a warrior, not a diplomat, Taeho admitted. My people are still adapting to our new position. The Meridian Confederacy had surrendered quickly after the awakening began. Their once feared fleet was now a transport service, helping coordinate relief efforts to worlds in need. It was a better fate than many had expected for the would-be conquerors. The council is gathering, Dr. Hyun said. Jaiwu will speak soon. They entered the central chamber where thousands of delegates were taking their seats. The old hierarchies of galactic power had been dissolved. No species sat above another now. Even the ancient council elders, once the highest authorities in known space, were seated as equals among newly discovered civilizations from the galaxy's outer reaches. Grand Arbiter Kyung approached Taeho and Dr. Hyun. "The humans have surprised us all," she said quietly. "When the awakening began, many of us expected vengeance for the deception we maintained for so long." "Vengeance is a waste of energy," Dr. Hyun replied. "We have too much to build together." The lights dimmed. At the center of the chamber, Jaiwu appeared. Her simple gray suit was unchanged from the day of first contact, though she now wore a small silver pin, the mark of the Sentinel Corps who had lived among humanity, keeping watch through the centuries. "Fellow travelers among the stars," she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. 6 months ago, a rule was broken. A sleeping memory was awakened. Today, we gather to establish a new understanding between all people of this galaxy. Images appeared around the chamber, the great ships Earth had built, the wonders they had rediscovered, the power they now commanded. Humans could reshape planets, harness the energy of stars, and travel across vast distances in moments. They had become, once again, the most advanced species in known space. "Many feared our return to power," Jaiwu continued. "These fears were not unreasonable. The history of the precursors, our history, includes terrible chapters of arrogance and destruction. We created wonders, yes, but also horrors. We played at being gods and nearly destroyed the galaxy we claimed to rule." Taeho watched the faces of the delegates. Many nodded in grim agreement, having learned these stories as cautionary tales. "This is why we chose to forget," Jaiwu explained. "Our ancestors recognized the corruption that unlimited power had caused in them. They saw only one path to redemption: to return to their homeworld, lock away their knowledge and technology, and live as mortals again. To remember what it means to be vulnerable. To struggle. To fail. To love with hearts that could break." She gestured to the earth, visible through the chamber's transparent ceiling. "For 50,000 years, we lived as simple humans. We built civilizations with our hands instead of thought. We explored our world before reaching again for the stars. We created art from our joy and sorrow, not from detached perfection." Around the chamber, humans and aliens alike listened in silence. Even those who had feared human dominance seemed captivated. "We will not repeat our ancestors' mistakes," Jaiwu promised. "Power without compassion leads only to emptiness. Technology without wisdom leads only to destruction. We have learned what our ancestors forgot: the value of limitations." The images around the chamber changed to show the new projects humans had initiated: healing dead worlds, sharing medical knowledge that cured ancient diseases, creating new faster-than-light corridors that connected isolated regions of space. "The old rule stated, 'Don't touch the humans,'" Jaiwu said. "This rule was created not to protect us, but to protect you all from what we might become if awakened too soon. Today, we establish a new understanding. Not a rule enforced by fear, but a partnership built on respect." She extended her hands. "We invite all worlds to join us in building something better than what came before. Not a precursor empire, but a true community of worlds." The chamber erupted in applause. Even former enemies joined in the celebration. A new era had begun. Later, as delegates mingled in the garden levels, Taeho found himself beside Jaiwu, watching Earth rotate slowly below them. "I still don't fully understand," he admitted. "With all your power, you could rule everything." Jaiwu smiled. "Ruling everything nearly destroyed us once. We learned the hard way that the greatest wisdom can sometimes be choosing not to use the greatest power." Taeho looked at the stars beyond Earth. "So the new rule of the universe is—" "There is no rule," Jaiwu replied. "Just a hope that all species might learn what we did, that sometimes the strongest choice is restraint." Taeho nodded slowly. He finally understood why the warning had existed all those millennia. It wasn't fear that had prompted the rule, but respect for a sleeping giant that had once decided to dream as mortals. And in doing so, had become more than gods.